All right, good morning. Morning, how's everyone doing? Karibuni sana. Welcome to the Afriforex daily analysis, this beautiful 15th day of November 2024. Hope you're well from wherever it is that you're joining us from, but we're really glad that you could join us. Thank you for making the time to be here with us this beautiful but very chilly morning. It's also raining here in Nairobi, so hope it's also not going to be a bad day on the charts as much as it's gloomy outside. So John is my name. I'm a trader with Afriforex. Afriforex is a trading unit. So we're also here with Mitch. In case you do have any questions, feel free to ask them. Of course, on the chat box, he will definitely be getting back to you, but I will also be looking at the questions in the Q&A section and any requests, but towards the very tail end of this session. So we're going to jump straight into it. So we'll start off by looking at the watch list. As always, that's where we always start. So you can see the watch list right there for today. So pretty much a lot of things are on the sell side of things, as you can see. So we only do have the USD and the Great British Pound on the buy side of things. So we'll be seeing how things end up working out on that front. But we'll start off by looking at the currency pairs that we did have yesterday, which unfortunately did not make it to our watch list. And of course, that's definitely the Canadian dollar pairs. So we'll see what happened there and what we can end up learning from that. So we'll start off with the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And of course, in the morning, the price had just broken. It was just holding above here. I wanted to see if maybe we could have gotten some sort of a spike, coming in within this region before we actually end up getting the buy. But the market went to the upside, came back in. When it came back in within this region, you can see that the buyers really struggled, to pick up from within this area right here. And you can see that the market has come to the downside. Definitely a lot of Canadian dollar weakness that we're seeing. So the strength that we wanted to see yesterday, unfortunately today, doesn't seem like it's going to be coming in. So that's a reason why we have moved the Canadian dollar to the sell side. And of course, definitely not going to be trying to see whether we can get some buys on the Canadian dollar against the Swiss franc. So the next one, this is the euro against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells. So you can clearly see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, the price was somewhere here. So I was expecting hopefully to get the market coming back in within there. Maybe if we did get the market dropping, maybe on the pullback, trying to get the sell. Maybe unless you read this on a smaller time frame to actually get this sell coming down. But you can see that during the London session, the market came down. During the US session, price was back in within this area right here. But it took a bit of time before it actually came to the downside, but it only gave this sell, and that was pretty much it. And you can't see that the weakness on the Canadian dollar also started to show on that one. So unfortunately, not really a currency pair that we'll be trying to see whether we can trade today. So the next one, this is the Canadian dollar against Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. And you can see there was also this illustration that I had pointed out of what possibly we could have expected. But you can't see that in the morning price was somewhere within this region right here. I wanted to see the market possibly break to the upside or possibly come back down. It did pull back in within here. If you look at the times, this was at exactly 5:30 back within this region right here. And after that, you can see that the market attempted to come to the upside, although in a very choppy manner. But nonetheless, I mean, if you got the buy, just needed to exercise a bit of patience and possibly hang on, and that trade would have worked out. But unfortunately, we would be looking to see whether we can get more buying opportunities on that one. So the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten sells. Can't clearly see the three areas that I had mapped out right there. And in the morning, price was somewhere within this region here. It broke to the downside. Unfortunately, on the pullback, couldn't quite hold. And you can see that the market came back in all the way to within this region here. And you can see that off this area right here, much later on, the market took a bit of time to roll over within this region here. But you can see that the market did actually end up coming off that region, coming down much later on. And of course, I guess that was pretty much the only sell that was there on the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. So last but not least, we do have the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So for this one yesterday, I was trying to see whether we could have gotten some sells as well. So you can't see the three regions that I had pointed out, almost something similar to the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar, whereby the market pulled back in, during the London session, during the US session, the market came back in somewhere as close as possible within there, which is what we expected. But when the market did actually end up moving, this was much, much later on, at around 10:30 p.m. our time. Most probably none of us were really looking for entries at that point, but that's when the trade did actually end up working out. So unfortunately, also not a currency pair that we will be trying to see whether we can trade today. So I guess that pretty much marks the end of the currency pairs that we had yesterday that unfortunately did not make it to our watch list. So shifting gears into some screenshots that we did end up getting. So we'll start off with these ones. And we actually got screenshots from George. Seems like you are the one who was really killing it on the charts yesterday. So this is on, let's see, I can't quite tell what this is. Oh, the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So I can see that you got a selling opportunity on this one somewhere within there. And I can see that the market came down quite nicely. Stop loss somewhere within this region right here. And I can see that you're targeting down within this area right here. So quite a decent trade. Of course, a lot of technical analysis going on. Can see lots of indicators and levels and all sorts of things going on. But at the end of the day, as long as you're making money, that's what really matters. So shout out to you for that. So I can see that you also did end up getting a trade on gold. So this is a selling opportunity somewhere within there. Stop loss beneath your point of entry, which is good. Can't see that as the market was coming down. Don't really know where you're targeting, but I can't see a lot of technical analysis going on within this area here. But I hope that you did actually come out with something nice on that trade. So shout out to you for that. And also on the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So I can see that you got a buying opportunity on this one, somewhere within this area right here. Stop loss already above your point of entry, which is good. Don't know where you are targeting with this one, but good to see that at least your stop loss is already above your point of entry. And I can see that this is on the 1 minute time frame, which means that you are possibly trying to do some scalping on that one. And of course, it does seem like it was paying off. So shout out to George for that. Of course, really happy to see you killing it on the charts. Remember, guys, if you do get any trades, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details should be there on the chat box, or rather on the video description as well. So you can end up sending them in to us via WhatsApp, and at least we will give you the much needed shout out. And of course, if you do need help, or if we do notice something, then at least we'll definitely give you the much needed advice so as to point you in the right direction. So shifting gears into matters today. So you can see right there, the 15th of November. This is what the watch list is going to be looking like. So it's more or less the USD and the Great British Pound versus the rest of the world. We'll see how things end up transpiring on that front. On the fundamental front, you can see that there is quite a lot of news events that will be coming out for the GBPs, most especially. You can see that in the next 49 minutes or so, quite a number of news events. So we could expect a lot of movement on the GBPs. You can see some Euro speeches and, of course, USDs and Canadian dollar news events coming out during the US session, as always. So seems like the economic calendar is pretty packed today. So I guess we should expect some really good moves to happen on the charts. But of course, make sure that you always do trade with a stop loss and stick within your risk parameters at all times. So we're going to start off with the USD pairs and mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we'll start off with the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas right there that I have pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. I was expecting maybe to get the price coming back in within this region to possibly end up getting some sort of a nice pullback for the buy. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. You can see that the market just broke, went to the upside, came back in, just needed to be patient. And you can see that much later on, price came back in within this region. And you can see that from within this area, the market went to the upside. If you got the buys here, just needed to target the previous high, which was definitely somewhere within here. And you can see that off that area, the sellers have definitely started to give the buyers some sort of issues. So for this one, for today, these are the three areas we will be watching out for. So hopefully you can end up taking note of those three areas right there. Right now, the pullback is coming in. which is good. Hopefully, we could get the market coming back in somewhere as close as possible within here. If we do, then at least we could possibly get some really good buys moving to the upside, but you definitely will need to manage your trade within this region right here. So make sure that you watch out for that. But also remember the red SNR at the bottom. In case the market comes back in within that region, then definitely this is going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get those aggressive buying opportunities. In case the market breaks that region to the downside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us on the US dollar against the Swiss franc. So the next one, this is the euro against the US dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten sells. And you can clearly see the three regions right there that I had pointed out in the morning, and also an illustration of what to expect. And you can see that in the morning, price was somewhere here. We're expecting price to either come back in within this region or maybe break to the downside on the pullback hold for us to look for the sells. But you can see that the market actually probed within this region here, held to the upside, went to the upside, and then came back down. And you can see that it's still holding here. So for that reason, that's the reason why the levels are more or less the same. And you can see that the market came back in somewhere as close as possible within here, though it did some sort of very weird turnaround, not really the best of turnarounds, where you see the buyers really slowing down, the sellers coming in, and that last push of the buyers before the sellers come in. The market just went up, tapped within this region, and you can see that it turned around. So let's see what happens today. Of course, don't look for selling opportunities right now. The market is just holding above a region of support. So, you never really know what the market could do off this region. You can see that the fact that there are probes within this area definitely should tell us that there are buyers who are sitting within this region here. So you could find the market pulling back in somewhere within this area right here. And if it does, you could definitely try and see whether you could get some selling opportunities within this area here. But of course, the other alternative is if the market breaks beneath this region to the downside, when we get a nice strong breach and the market pulls back in within this area, then at least we could try see whether we could get some selling opportunities or some more conservative selling opportunities within this area here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. Of course, watch out for the red SNR at the top. And of course, as always, make sure that you do watch out for the times and stick within your risk parameters at all times. So the next one, this is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the three areas there. So I guess in the morning price was somewhere within here. We're either expecting price to break above this area to the upside, or maybe get some sort of a pullback coming in within here. But there was some sort of an SNR within this area that really held. And you can see that the market really held within that area. And much later on, it just took off to the upside of this same region right here. So today we're going to be focusing on this region right here. And we will be trying to see whether we can get the market possibly either coming back in within this region here to possibly end up giving us some good buying opportunities. So we will need to possibly see whether we can get a proper pullback coming in within this area right here. If we do get that, then possibly we could get this buy coming up. You will need to manage your trade within that region, even if you will be targeting areas much, much higher. So just watch out for that. But also alternatively, if the pullback doesn't come in, then we'll have to wait for those more conservative buying opportunities, but we'll have to wait for the breach and the pullback. Try see what happens. Try see whether you can also align that with the times that we keep on pointing out, most especially during the US session, because it might take the whole of the London session to set up, break to the upside, then pull back in maybe 4 or 5:30. If price is back in within here, then you could possibly try to see whether you could get those more conservative buying opportunities. But also watch out for this region at the bottom. It's a bit of a long shot, but in case the market finds its way there, then at least also just make sure that you're ready for that, and also be aware that that's the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get aggressive buying opportunities. So moving on into the next one, this is the Australian dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas right there. So in the morning price was here. We're expecting price to pull back in within here. Unfortunately, it did not. It just pulled around within this area. And you can see that the market just broke to the downside of this region right here. And you can see that there's been some sort of a pullback coming in. But I think the major scenario could be somewhere within this area here. Because, even if you get the trade coming down off this area here, coming down, we're looking at 20 pips, which is not too bad. But I think there's a possibility price might just come back in. hopefully within this region right here. If it does, I think this trade coming down will definitely end up giving us way more in terms of risk to reward. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And also remember the red SNR at the top. If the price does come back in within, there's still a major level within here. I mean, when the market broke to the downside, based on the higher time frames, there's a region within this area that the market did quite retest. So don't be surprised if you find the market back within that area there. So if it does, then at least you will definitely be also ready for that. So last but not least, or second last in terms of the USDs. So this is the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some selling opportunities, which is the same case as what we're watching out for yesterday. So in the morning, price was somewhere within here. We're expecting maybe the market to break to the downside or maybe get the pullback coming in within this area here. Unfortunately, it couldn't. But also remember, I had pointed out that the New Zealand dollar pairs and the Australian dollar pairs were showing a lot of weakness, which means that the deep pullbacks that we wanted to see were possibly not going to happen. And you can see that the market really struggled within this area, only come back in within this region right here before the sellers push the market to the downside. So for this one, the levels are the same. I mean, the market hasn't really gone far and beyond the areas that we're watching out for yesterday. It's just fooling around within this region. So we're going to be waiting to see if we can get the market possibly breaking to the downside once again. I mean, if it does end up breaking and actually does end up holding, the candle that we're looking at right now is an active candle. So we can't say that the market has broken to the downside, because you can see that we still do have about 9 minutes or so before the candle closes. So we do need to see the market close to the downside. Maybe we pull back and holds within here. You could look for some sells. But the only problem with that sell is that you'd only be targeting down within here. So we're only looking at around 17 pips. And if the market can't break this region to the downside quite fast, possibly even hold to the downside, then at that point in time, you might need to scratch. Because if you get stuck within here, there's a possibility the market could actually end up pushing back to the upside, maybe even above this region right here. And if you actually end up holding on to that trade, you could actually end up getting stopped out. So it might actually not be worth it. So let's wait and see what happens. But I'm really hoping the buyers do actually end up push the market to the upside. If they do, then at least we'll be watching out for this region here and possibly also that region at the top there to possibly get some really good selling opportunities. So let's wait and see what happens on that one. So last but not least on the USDs, this is the US dollar against the Canadian dollar. So this is a new entrant on our watch list, and we will be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So let's see what happens on this one. Hopefully we can get the pullback coming in. You can see that the market has been going up. Definitely lots of guys are looking to see whether they can get buying opportunities on this one. But the best thing is to actually wait and see if we can get the pullback coming in. If we do get the pullback coming in, at least within this region here, I think there could be some really good buys happening off this area here. Also watch out for this region at the bottom right here. But in terms of looking for the buys now, I would advise you possibly end up waiting for the market to possibly move to the upside. If it does, I mean, you'll possibly still get a pullback within this area here. Maybe not during the London session, but maybe during the US session, you could find the market back there. You could get your buying opportunity off that region there. So let's wait and see what happens on that one. And of course, remember to watch out for the times. I mean, if things don't move during the London session, just make sure that you watch out for the US session. So that's pretty much it in terms of the USDs. So right now we're going to move on to the GBP pairs. Mix and match them up with everything on the sell side. So we'll start off with the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. And you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was somewhere here. So it was either price to break above here, and we could possibly look for the buying opportunities, or possibly if the market came back in within here. Unfortunately, it came back, but just came shy of this region right here. You can't see twice, came shy of that area, pushed to the upside, broke above here, held, and you can't see that today the market is just holding within this particular region here. So for today, the levels are more or less the same. The story is the same, nothing much has changed. So we'll be waiting to see if we can get possibly the market coming back in within this region here. And we could find maybe the market may be giving us, an attempt of the sellers, maybe attempting to break beneath this region to the downside. If that ends up being unsuccessful, and the market actually pushes back to the upside, and hopefully these bars right here push the market to the upside and the market holds within here, then we could try see whether we could get some buying opportunities of this area right here. So let's wait and see what happens. But alternatively, if the market breaks and holds beneath here, then there's a possibility we still could be coming back in within this area here, because you can see that the bars have really struggled to push the market to the upside. So when the market comes back in within here, to most probably be trying to go for that much better price, and that could be somewhere within this region here. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And of course, remember the red SNR, that's definitely the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get aggressive buying opportunities. If the market breaks and holds beneath that region to the downside, then unfortunately there will be no trade for us. So the next one is Euro against the Great British Pound. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities. So you can see the three areas that I had pointed out, which are more or less the same areas as today. So yesterday, there was a lot of inactivity. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the market moving. I was timing some sales within here, but unfortunately, I got missed. But even if I did jump in on the trade, or even if I did get it, unfortunately, the market didn't really move anywhere. So let's see, today we'll end up having a bit much better luck, because also the Great British Pound against the Swiss franc, I also missed out on a trade just by a few pips. I mean, I was timing the red SNR at the bottom. The market came so close within there. Unfortunately, I got missed out on that one. Same case with this one, and also quite a number of GBPs. I think I only got one, but we'll end up looking at it. So for this one, let's see if we'll be lucky today. Let's see what happens on the pullback. The bars are coming in slow, which is good. So let's see if they can possibly come back in within this area, maybe get some big sellers activating off this region here, possibly coming down, and hopefully could get these sellers, from Wednesday coming back into the game, and maybe we could get this proper sell coming in within this region right here. So let's watch out for that, but also remember the red SNR at the top. If the market finds its way there, then at least also watch out for that region in terms of looking for the last selling opportunities. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Japanese yen. So for this one, yesterday we're trying to watch out for buying opportunities. You can clearly see the three areas that I had pointed out yesterday, which are more or less the same as today. So in the morning, price was here. I was expecting maybe price to break to the downside, come back, hit, hold, possibly look for the buys. If not, maybe looking for entry somewhere down within here. I was also timing a buy down somewhere within this area right here. Fortunately, I got missed out, and you can see that the market just turned around, just shy of this area here to the upside, and went up all the way till the top within that region. And you can see that the sellers within this area are actually giving issues today. So let's see if they can actually push the market to the downside. Seems like they've already started pushing the market to the downside. Hopefully they can get the market back in within that area. If they do, then at least we'll just need to see if we can get the market slowing down within this area here. And hopefully we could actually end up trying to see whether we could get some buying opportunities, maybe keeping up with, the sequence of higher highs and higher lows that the market has already started to make within that area. But you definitely will need to manage your trade within this region. So let's see what happens on this one. And of course, I know there are a lot of GBP news events that are going to be coming out in a bit. So we'll definitely end up finding the markets actually moving a lot. So this could be a precursor. Maybe the big boys are just getting ready, but I think there will be a lot of action on the GBP pairs. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the Australian dollar. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten buys. So you can see the three regions right there that I had pointed out. In the morning, price was here. So it was either price to break to the upside, pull back in within here for us to look for the buys, or maybe price coming back in within this region right here. And you can see that the market actually pulled back in within this area quite nicely. And you can see the slowdown before the market actually took off to the upside. Even for this one, fortunately, I got missed out somewhere within here, but I'd seen this with also some snipers that we were looking at the charts with together yesterday. So that buy went to the upside, but unfortunately, we ended up getting missed out, but it's okay. Today is another day. Let's see if we'll be lucky today. So in terms of buys, right now is not really a good time to look for the buys. It seems like the market has done a full cycle, because yesterday morning price was within the same region. Yesterday came down, came back up, and today, same time, it's back within this region. So we will be waiting to see whether we can get the market to break above this region to the upside. So something like this, if we do get the breach, market comes back in within this area here, possibly holds, then we could try and see whether we could get the buys. But give these sellers the benefit of doubt. I mean, you could find this region react. And I mean, like we pointed out so many times before, if the market is within a region of support or resistance, especially during the market opening times, there's a high probability the market will be pushing itself off this region or off those regions. So you can't see that right now. We're just holding within this region here. You never know what could happen maybe at around 11, especially if the market is still holding beneath this region to the downside. You could find that the big boys in London could actually push the market to the downside. Then maybe the market might be back in within here at around maybe 4, 5:30. And you can't see that yesterday, that's exactly what we did. So during the London session, it was high up here. During the US session, price was back in within this region at around 4. And you can't see that's when the big boys in the US did actually push the market to the upside. So just make sure that you also watch out for that, even as you're looking for your entries. So for this one, watch out for those 3 areas right there. And of course, no matter what you do, make sure that you do trade with a stop loss and stick within your risk parameters at all times. So the next one, this is the Great British Pound against the New Zealand dollar. So for this one, yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten some buying opportunities. So you can see the 3 regions right there that I had pointed out. So aggressive, conservative, semi-aggressive, conservative here. In the morning, price was here. Wanted to see the price either break to the upside of this region, come back in within here for us to look for the buys, or maybe come back in within this region here before we actually end up looking for the buys. So for this one, the market started to turn around within this area right here. I wasn't first convinced in terms of how the buyers were coming in, especially with these weeks that you can't see within this area right here, because there are quite a number of weeks within here. Then the big boys showed up, and when they showed up, I had to read this on a smaller time frame to actually end up getting that buying opportunity within there. It was a bit of a cowboy trade, if I do say so, but at least I did manage to get that trade within this region. The market went up. I hadn't moved the stop loss to break even when I took the screenshot, because I knew that most probably price was going to come back in within this region. And you can see that price did actually come back in within this area right here. So it was only much later on much later on, let me just say at around 11, that's when the market actually went up and actually hit the take profit high up within there. So giving a 1:3.64, which is not too bad, but of course you can't see that the market within this area did actually end up becoming a bit stagnant. So for today, we're still going to be watching out for the same regions. Let's see if we can get the market pulling back in. The levels are the same. So it's the same story. I mean, levels have not been broken, so we're still going to be maintaining the same biases as yesterday. So it's either the market breaks above this region to the upside, and we could find some buying opportunities within here. If not, and it looks like the sellers are starting to come in, you can see that the buyers are also starting to slow down within here, especially after this seller showed up. If the market does actually end up bouncing off this region here, you could find that maybe at around 11, the big boys could start to come in, and hopefully the market is back within here, maybe during the US session. If the pullback happens, then you could look for your buys within here. Alternatively, I mean, it could be a same scenarios as what we were watching out for yesterday. So if the market breaks above this region to the upside, then watch out for what happens maybe within this particular region right here, maybe during the US session, if the market is sitting on this support region or maybe on this support region. So watch out for that, but also watch out for the region at the bottom right there. I mean, if the market finds its way down within that region, then just make sure that you're also ready for that as well. So last but not least, in terms of the currency pairs, we do have the Great British Pound against the Canadian dollar. So for this one, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get some buying opportunities. So this is a new entrant on our watch list. So these are the 3 areas we will be watching out for. So right now the market has gone up, attacked this region right here. And you can see that yesterday during the US session, the buyers stepped in within this region quite aggressively. The sellers tried to retaliate. The buyers are still pushing, and they are really pushing to see whether they can break this region to the upside. But don't look for your buys until they do. And especially if they do, and then the pullback happens, then at least you could try to see whether you could get your buy. But also give these sellers the benefit of doubt. I mean, you could find the market coming back in within here, then you could find that the proper buying opportunities could happen off this area right here. But there's also a possibility somewhere within this region right here, especially for the guys in the sniper and guys who've done the one-on-one and you know exactly how to read exactly what's going on within here, then you definitely know why we're watching out for this region right here. So there's also a possibility some good buys could happen off this area right here. But of course, I mean, like we always keep on pointing out, we're not prophets on the charts. So we are just analyzing to the best of our ability, but the markets do actually have a mind of their own. So, I mean, the three options that we have here are the three options that we have. Whichever option the market decides to go with, then that's exactly the one that we're going to go with. We don't impose our opinions on what we want the markets to do. So let's wait and see what happens. But there's a possibility the market comes in within the red SNR. I think some spectacular buys could actually happen off that region. So that's pretty much it in terms of the currency pairs. So right now we're going to move on to the indices and the commodities to see what's going to be happening on that front and also what happened yesterday. So we'll start off with the NAS 100, which has shifted to the sell side of things. So yesterday, remember for the NAS, I had pointed out that we are more or less within some sort of a catch-22 situation. So it was either the market to break above this region to the upside and hold and possibly try and see whether we could get some buying opportunities within here. Unfortunately, I had attempted a buy within here, which did not really work out. It did seem like the bars had pushed up quite aggressively within there, attempted a buy within there. Unfortunately, once the market came back in within here, because the stop loss was somewhere here, got stopped out. But there wasn't really another attempt because once the market couldn't actually break to the upside of this region, there was definitely no buying opportunity. And you can't see, I had pointed out that if the market breaks to the downside of this area and holds within this region, then at that point in time, we had officially entered the sellers. And you can't see that's exactly what did happen, and the market really tanked to the downside. So for this one, for today, we're going to be trying to see whether we can get selling opportunities. And of course, that is based on considering the fact that we're holding beneath the red SNR. For as long as we're holding beneath here, the buyers should be to look for sells. If you do get buys, you can look for them. But just bear in mind that the buying opportunities that you're getting are actually counters, and they can actually cost you, especially if you mismanage the situation. So for this one, let's see if we can get the pullbacks happening. You can see that the sellers are quite rampant, even breaking beneath this region. Early in the morning, when we're looking at the charts with the team, the market had just bounced off this area right here. But you can see that the market has attempted to break to the downside. So we'll just wait and see. If we can't get the market coming back within here and actually hold, then we could possibly try and see whether we could get more conservative selling opportunities. But in case the market breaks to the upside, maybe of this region right here and holds above here, then there's a possibility we could get a pullback coming in. And you could find that maybe at around 5:30, because that's when most of the time this one does actually end up moving, from within the New York Stock Exchange open. The market is back in within this area, then we could get some good selling opportunities. So watch out for that. And I'm really hoping it pulls back in within there, because there's definitely an area of interest within that area, especially when you look at it on the bigger time frame. So let's just keep our fingers crossed and see what does end up happening. So the next one, this is the Dow Jones. So for this one yesterday, we're trying to see whether we could have gotten sells. So you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. So in the morning, price was here. I was expecting price to come back in within this region for some sort of a pullback before we actually get the sell happening. So you can see the market came back in. This was during the London session. During the US session, the sellers showed up. And you can see there was a big seller who showed up. That last pullback happened. Back within that area was quite fast. The market just tapped in within that region. And after that, you can see that the market started its journey to come to the downside. So for this one, for today, we'll also be trying to see whether we can get sells, but we'll also be trying to see whether we can get some proper pullbacks happening. Remember, you don't really want to be chasing such type of trades. And of course, I know that there are very many breakout traders across the world. And I know that there are definitely many breakout traders who are also watching this. You don't really end up taking the trade within here. I mean, you could actually end up surviving this time around, but it's not something that you can do consistently and make money. Sometimes you will actually end up making it out alive. Sometimes you'll actually end up getting sent home. So you'd rather wait for the pullback and the confirmation. The market has just broken beneath this region to the downside, but we always say, it's not a breach until we see the pullback and the hold. So we definitely need to see a bit more of the story for us to actually end up executing the selling opportunities. In case the market breaks and holds above this region to the upside, and this ends up being a probe, then that means that there's a possibility we could get the buyers coming in. We never know if they'll come in till within this region right here, but we do hope that in case that does end up happening, then they do come in within, at least within this region right here, and possibly get some good selling opportunity to come to the downside. So watch out for that. Also remember the red SNR at the top. For as long as we're holding beneath that region to the downside, then at least we should be looking to see whether we can get some selling opportunities. So the next one, which is silver. So for silver, yesterday the buyers was to try to see whether we could have gotten some selling opportunities, and you can see the three areas right there that I had pointed out. And the areas are more or less the same as today. So you can see that the market broke to the downside, came back in within this region, couldn't quite hold within this area, broke to the upside. So that means that this is a massive probe that happened within here. And especially if you look at it on the bigger time frame, you'll actually end up seeing that. So this being a probe, the market came back in, held within here, and came to the upside. So that means that the levels are more or less the same. So which means that if we get the market breaking to the downside of this region, I mean, if you get a sell within here, then you definitely know that you should be targeting down within this area here, because that's, the bottommost part that the market did actually end up getting down until yesterday. So in case that does end up happening, then at least you should be ready for that. But at least right now, because it's back in within these regions, there's a possibility it could bounce off this area to the upside. If it does, then at least you should be waiting to see whether you could get some selling opportunities, maybe higher up, either within this region right here, or in case the buyers do decide to really come in and push the market to the upside, then possibly you could also try and see whether you could get your selling opportunities somewhere within this region right here. So hopefully you can end up taking note of those three areas, but the story is more or less the same as what we were watching out for yesterday. So watch out for that. And also remember that when it comes to the indices and the commodities, we're fully technical. So for as long as we're holding beneath the red SNR to the downside, the buyers should be to look for selling opportunities. If we do break and hold above the red SNR to the upside, then at that point in time, the bias does end up shifting and you can start looking for buying opportunities, but more confidently. Remember, don't be overconfident in terms of looking for the counters. They can actually end up costing you a lot. So just make sure that you watch out for that. And the biggest problem with counters is, you start cheering the market in that direction. And the big boys actually come in and start pushing the market in the right direction. Like they always say, the trend is your friend. You won't see that happening. It's like when you go hunting for a deer, then you start chasing squirrels. When the deer actually shows up, you won't even be concentrating. Or even if it does end up, or if you actually end up seeing the deer, maybe you'll have already run out of ammunition because you've been shooting squirrels all over the place. So, when it comes to trading, it's the same thing. So you're busy chasing the buys, you won't see the sell happening. Or when the sell happens, you've lost so many buys, just attempting buys. And by the time the sell shows up, maybe you don't even have as much money in your account. So just make sure that you really keep your mind and your eyes on the ball. So for gold, you can't see the bars right there. It's more or less the same as what we were watching out for yesterday. So even for this one, yesterday we were watching out for sell. The market had broken to the downside. But unfortunately, when it broke to the downside of this region, it couldn't quite hold within this region to the downside. And you can see that it broke to the upside. And of course, that means that there's a massive probe within this area right here, which is also quite visible on the bigger time frame. So right now, the fact that the market is back in within here, there's a possibility you could find that the market could actually end up lifting off this area right here. If it does, and I hope it does, then at least we could get some good selling opportunities maybe during the US session of this region right here to calm down. If the market breaks beneath this region to the downside, and I'm not disregarding the fact that it can, then at least you do know that if you do get the sells here, then you should be targeting down within this area right here, which is more or less, the bottommost part that the market got down until after it broke this region to the downside. So just make sure that you watch out for that, and also watch out for the red SNR at the top right there. Of course, that's going to be the last area where we will be trying to see whether we can get our aggressive selling opportunities. So I guess that's pretty much it in terms of everything. So hopefully you have taken note of everything we've discussed over and above the many stories that I've given you. So of course, I'm not really seeing any questions on the chat box, which is okay. I guess everything is perfectly clear. Remember, if it's not, you can also rewatch this as many times as possible until you get it. And of course, our contact details are also there on the video description. So in case you also need more help, also feel free to reach out to us. We'll see how best we can end up helping you. So I want to thank guys so much for making the time to be here with us this week. And of course, today, it's been a pleasure working with you guys. Hopefully we'll do this again next week on Monday. And of course, feel free to like and subscribe as well. It does also end up helping out our channel. As much as we're helping you guys out, you can also end up helping us out by liking and subscribing and also sharing. I know there are many traders out there who would possibly end up appreciating this information. And I know that there are many of you guys here who also know very many traders who are also suffering in their trading, and this information will definitely end up helping them. So also feel free to spread this around. So I guess we'll see you guys on Monday morning, 9 a.m. in the morning. So as always, may the peeps be with you. Cheers, guys, and bye for now. God bless.